Good morning, folks. We are coming to you again from the gun room, and I wanted to talk about modifying your firearms. And it's not what you think, like whether you should or shouldn't or whatever. It's more about don't modify your firearms until after you fired them when they're brand new in the factory configuration. And the reason I say that, and I'm speaking from experience here, but here's what gave me the idea to talk about this subject. So a video came across my feed of a younger guy, say younger, he sounded like he was in his 20s probably. I'm 50 now, so he's probably old enough to be my kid, or young enough, I should say. But he was talking about watching YouTube videos on this gun, the Springfield Armory Prodigy. Now, he said he watched a bunch of videos on this gun and how it was unreliable and having issues, but he wanted one. So he went out and bought it. And as soon as it came in, before he even fired a round, he started changing stuff and modified it, changing out triggers, grip safeties, hammers, whatever, changing all kinds of stuff out of the gun before he even fired the thing. The video did not conclude with him shooting it, but he stated heavily in the video that, you know, he's seen all the YouTube videos and all the problems people were having, so he wanted to avoid all that. And I guess I kind of get the line of thinking, but experience tells me, because I've been there, and I'll tell you about that. I've been there when I was younger also. Experience tells me, go out and shoot the gun first. Do everything you can. Take your, if you plan on modifying a gun, first of all, let me back up a little bit. Don't believe what you see on YouTube. As far as these are only sample sizes of ones and twosies and all this other kind of stuff. I waited about a year to buy this Prodigy. And by the way, at the time of making this video, you can see like there's dirt on the front here, dirt back there. Look at, you know, it's dirty up there. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see it's really, this probably has about 500 rounds through it at the time of this video. And I know that's not a lot, but I have not cleaned it. I took it out of the box, went straight to shooting. And you know what? I haven't had a single problem with this thing. Not one hiccup. It is shot fantastic. And when I bought this, I vowed I was going to shoot this sucker to failure. So I was going to shoot it without cleaning it. I mean, I was going to shoot it until it started to choke and see what the round count was. Now, my initial plan was to keep track of every round. I freaking failed on that. So I know it's around 500-ish. So maybe I'll start at 500 and start counting after that. I just wanted to shoot it until it started consistently choking due to lack of maintenance. But mine worked straight out the box. And again, I got this probably about a year after launch. So I think Springfield had a little bit of time to go back. Their initial guns did have problems, and I've seen several videos of it. It seems like it was an issue with the Cerakoting on the rails or some you know, stuff like that. But they seem to have pretty much corrected it. And at least with this example, it's run fine. Now, if I had come home, taken it out the box, and just started changing recoil springs, changing triggers, it might have started choking like crazy. And I'd say, see, Springfield Army piece of shit. Because I've experienced that before. Back in the day, 20 plus years ago, when I was competing regularly in IDPA and USPSA and stuff, and shooting Glocks, I would buy a Glock and be like, and I owned several Glocks before that, but still I'd buy a Glock and immediately put in, I don't even know what the name, I forget the name, but like 3.5 degree disconnect. I forget the names of the triggers at the time that they had that were like these, oh, you gotta do, everybody, the buzz in the gun shop and the buzz on the range is, oh man, you gotta get this trigger and you gotta put this spring in, you gotta do this, and all these little internal upgrades you were allowed to do. that would, in the competitions. And then they would start to not be reliable. Put them back. I would put it back to the factory configuration and it would start to work. So when I watched the video, I was like, I know it. This is going to be a mistake. Like, if you're going to modify your firearms, by all means, go ham. It's your gun. You spend your money on it. You do whatever you want with it. My suggestion is, though, so that you get a baseline of performance, take the gun out, clean it, go to the range, shoot 1 box, 2 boxes. I would say 100 rounds. Probably baseline would be 100 rounds. Shoot 100 rounds. See where the point of aim, point of impact is. See if it's reliable. Pay attention to all that stuff. Is accurate, reliable? Pay attention to all that stuff. Then you have a baseline of the performance of the gun. And you say, yes, at least for this first 100 rounds, it was completely reliable. It was accurate. It was, worked perfectly. Then start changing stuff. Then go back out to the range and shoot it and see if it does the same thing. If it does, fine. If not, then you got a problem. But if you immediately come home before you even fired a shot and you start modifying it because you watched YouTube videos, which are probably now a year and a half plus old, of there being reliability issues with the gun, don't do that based off of YouTube videos. And the reversed, go the reverse too. Don't just assume a gun's gonna be, oh well, it's a Glock. Of course it's gonna work. So I've just took it. I've never even taken it to the range. I loaded up with bullets, put the magazine in, put it in my drawer, and it's ready to go for home defense. Okay, odds are if it's a Glock and modern semi-automatic striker-fired pistols, it's probably okay. But do you want to trust your life on that? I mean, are you going to, without test firing it at all, take it to the range and test fire it? Don't be like, well, it's a Glock. Of course it's reliable. No, Glock has had issues too. Now, in my experience, to be honest with you, all the Glocks I've had, take them right out the box, right to the range, and they shoot flawlessly. I've never had a lemon, but I have a friend, lives in Virginia. He had the infamous Glock 30 when they first came out. This Glock 30 went back to the factory to Glock half a dozen times before they finally gave him a new gun. They could not figure out what was wrong with this thing, why it was choking, why it kept breaking the little what's the disassembly tab spring? It kept breaking those off like crazy. They've replaced all those parts, and it had tons of issues. It was, by all accounts and by all means, it was a lemon. It was a lemon. And it went back to Glock so many times that they finally just said, look, we'll give you another pistol. And then that one was perfect. So it happens to Glock too. But like I said, it's been my experience. Take a Glock straight out of the box, straight to the range, and it works perfectly. But I'm not gonna bet my life on that without test firing the gun. Take it out and test fire it. I guess my point in the whole video is, if you want to modify your firearms, go nuts. Modify the heck out of them. But please, before you make a video of it, take it out to the range and shoot it. It might have worked perfectly. I haven't done anything to this gun. And like I said, it's probably got, you see it's still dirty. It's probably got about 500 rounds to it at this point. I'm going to keep shooting the heck out of it until it starts to consistently choke. And it has not had one failure at all. Feed, fire, eject, nothing. So mine is good. If I'd have got it home and been like, yeah, well, these YouTube videos said that it's not working right, and here's the problem. Let me start hacking on it, and let me start grinding on it, and let me replace the recoil spring and the this and that, and then I take it out to the range, and it doesn't work, and you go, see, Springfield Armory, Prodigy's a piece of crap. Well, you didn't get the baseline performance from it first, as it comes from the factory. Also, not to mention, side note, I will occasionally do it, but I used to be a modifying whore when it came to my guns. I did it with 1911s too. I'd get Colts, but like, oh, so the first thing you got to do when you get a Colt is, is, or 1911 is get a Wilson Combat bulletproof extractor, get the change the hammer out, do all this, and you're changing the gun, and then you take it out, and one, does it really make a difference all that much? Sometimes, yeah. Does it make a difference in performance? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, no. And then you can even mess it up where it doesn't work at all. I mean, it just depends on the gun. I had an old Colt, should have never got rid of it, 1911, and the extractor hook sheared off while I was shooting it at the range. Replaced it with the Wilson Combat, never had any more problems with it. But I don't know, because that could have been bad heat treating. It could have been, you don't know what the issue with that was, and you never knew it would have failed if you just would have immediately replaced it. In that case, it probably would have been okay to replace it with the Wilson Combat bulletproof extractor, but I didn't know. You don't know, how's it gonna perform until you take it out and shoot it. And in that case, it failed, and I needed to replace the part. So I guess that's my whole thing for some of the younger guys, because like I said, I have been there. I would immediately, first thing you do, get a 1911, start taking parts out, throw that away, get a different beaver tail, get some new hammer trigger sear, hammer spring, go crazy. And then you start having issues and you go, was it the modifications I did? Or is it just having problems straight from the factory? You don't know because you didn't take it out and shoot it. And then here's one more thing before we get out of here. Then they'll say, well, the gun doesn't work, let me call the factory. And you send it back to the factory. Now you got to revert it back to the factory configuration. You send it back to the factory, it doesn't work. And then and they shoot it and it works, and it's just this endless cycle. I guess my piece of advice to folks out there to avoid heartache, and I'm speaking from experience here, to avoid heartache before you ever change anything on one of your guns, please just take it out to the range and shoot it. Run a minimum of 100 rounds through it, see if it works, then start saying, I don't like the way it recoils. Let me change the recoil spring. Or I don't like these sights. Let me change, let me throw a dot on, let me do this, let me do, because you can get a lot of, you can gauge a lot of things from even 100 rounds. Is it a comprehensive, all-encompassing test? No, but if it runs through 100 rounds straight through, no problems, no issues, then you say, okay, maybe I'll start changing stuff out because maybe I don't like how thick this grip safety is. I want a smaller one, or maybe I want an extended slide stop slide release. But if you put that in and then you're getting premature lockback, before you ever fire the gun, a lot of people will be like, gun's a piece of shit. I'm sending it back to Springfield. Well, you didn't shoot it when it came from the factory. You just started changing stuff. So there it is, guys. Let me know your views on modifying in general. Is it something you do? I generally don't do it anymore. I have done it. And usually if I do it so that I can return the pistol to the factory configuration if I need to, if I ever need to sell it, or something like, or if I just get tired, sometimes I get tired of the modifications and I go back and I revert it back to the factory. So I don't do that anymore, where I used to, especially on 1911s, I used to fit regular beaver tails and just grind the heck out of the frame. I don't mess with that anymore. I'm too darn old and lazy to do all that kind of stuff. But let me know if you guys are still into modifying your firearms. If you've ever taken a gun out of the box, modified it, taken it to the range, and it's failed. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should just switch it back and try that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.